This is Urso, and Urso is eating breakfast because it is the most important meal of the day. He is not sure who told him that. He is just sure that somebody did.
Everybody knows it.
Everybody does know it. That is the interesting part, because the sentence was not written by a scientist, and it was not the conclusion of anything. It was the product. 1944. An advertising agency working for General Foods has a problem. They need to sell more of a breakfast cereal called Grape-Nuts. The campaign they land on is called Eat a Good Breakfast, Do a Better Job, and inside it is the line that outlived the cereal, the campaign, and everyone in that room.
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Yay!
That is where it comes from. Not from a laboratory, from a room like this one being paid to make you hungry in the morning. And the campaign was not subtle about how it wanted to be believed. Pamphlets went out in grocery stores, and on the radio, the line came with a credential attached.
Nutrition experts say breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Nutrition experts say. Which experts? Saying it where? Measured in what? The advertisement does not tell you because the advertisement is the expert. The sentence is quoting itself. It is a good trick, and it still works. Anything that begins with studies show and then never names the study is doing exactly this. But the ground was prepared about 20 years earlier, and this part is a better story than it is a document. I am going to tell it and then tell you how much to trust it. 1925. Edward Bernays, the man who more or less invented public relations, is hired by a company that sells bacon. They want people to eat more of it.
I was in a difficult position. Nobody was eating me.
So Bernays does not advertise. He asks a doctor whether a bigger breakfast might be healthier than a small one. The doctor says it might. And then Bernays asks that doctor to write the same question to about 5,000 other doctors. Around 4,500 of them wrote back agreeing. Which is not a study. Nobody measured anything. It is a survey of opinion commissioned by the company that benefits from the answer. And then he did the thing that made him famous. He did not publish an advertisement. He gave it to the newspapers as news. 4,500 physicians urge heavy breakfast. That was the headline, not from bacon, from doctors. Bacon was just, conveniently, what a heavy breakfast happened to contain.
I never claimed anything. 4,500 doctors did.
Bacon sales went up. Now, the honesty part I promised. That story is told mostly by the public relations industry and by Bernays himself in his own memoirs. It is repeated everywhere, which is not the same as being verified. Treat it as a story about how persuasion works, not as a citation. What is not in dispute is what the plate looked like afterwards. Bacon and eggs stopped being one option among many and became the thing a proper breakfast was. And for most of human history, it was not. In 14th century England, eating first thing in the morning was something you did if you were a laborer or a child. An adult with standing was expected not to need it. So the tradition is about 100 years old, and it was installed on purpose. Which brings us to the part that made me want to make this. Because eventually people did go and check, and what they found is stranger than the sentence being wrong. 2013. Andrew Brown, Michelle Bohan Brown, and David Allison publish a paper with a title that tells you the whole thing, Belief Beyond the Evidence. They did not test whether skipping breakfast makes you gain weight. They tested how that question had been researched, and they found two habits running through the literature. The first one is my favorite. Studies that cannot answer the question, cited as though they had. That is the real name for it. Research lacking probative value. A study that by its own design could never establish cause, showing up in the next paper's introduction as if it had established cause. And the second, biased reporting. Papers that observed a correlation, describing it in their own summaries with the language of cause. Skipping breakfast leads to, contributes to, causes. We watched a belief walk into the evidence and make itself at home. Their conclusion was that belief in the effect exceeded the strength of the evidence for it, and that the scientific record itself had been distorted. The sentence arrived before the question did, and then the question was investigated by people who already knew the answer. So what happens when somebody does it properly? The Bath Breakfast Project. 6 weeks, adults randomly assigned either to eat at least 700 calories before 11 in the morning, or to eat nothing until midday. Resting metabolism did not move, not faster, not slower. The idea that breakfast starts your metabolism in the way people mean when they say it did not show up. The furnace metaphor was always the weakest part. But something did. The people eating breakfast moved more, not exercise, fidgeting, standing, walking around, the small spontaneous movement nobody decides to do. Wow! They also ate more overall across the day. So the two effects push against each other, and that is why the weight does not go where the slogan promises. A meta-analysis in the British Medical Journal pulled 13 randomized trials and got the same shape. People who ate breakfast took in about 260 more calories a day, and skipping was associated with slightly more weight lost, under half a kilogram. Under half a kilogram is nothing. That is the point. After 80 years of being the most important meal of the day, the honest effect size on your weight is almost exactly 0 in both directions. So here is where I have to be careful, because this is the part that gets clipped and turned into something I did not say. None of this is me telling you to skip breakfast. Adding breakfast does not cause weight loss. That is not the same sentence as skip it, and anyone who turns one into the other is doing the exact thing this video is about. Children and teenagers are a different literature, and I did not review it here, so do not stretch any of this to them. And if you have diabetes, especially on insulin when you eat, is a clinical question and it goes through your doctor, not through me.
Oh, can I keep eating it?
Yes, obviously yes. If you are hungry in the morning, eat. If you are not, do not. The trial found that people who ate breakfast moved around more, and that might be worth something to you on its own. What you get to drop is the guilt and the sentence. Because the sentence was never a finding, it was a line in a campaign to sell cereal, and it has been repeated for 80 years by people who assumed somebody, somewhere, had checked.
I really thought someone had checked.
Nobody had, and when they finally did, what they found was mostly us, believing it at each other. And if you want the next one, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which sentence you want Urso to check next. Every source for this one is in the description. Step into the light.